And in our struggle for democracy is the achieving credible conduct of our elections in future polls. Well, for more perspective on this issue, we have YAGA Program Manager Cynthia Mbamalu and INEX Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Mr. Oluwole Osazozi. They both join us from Abuja studios. Many thanks for joining us at this time. I'd like to begin with you, Mr. Osazozi. I mean, the president says he's committed to fair play and credible polls. He also talked about the number of rerun by-elections this January alone, that the Commission should ensure that the game is played by the rules without fear or favour. Would you say perhaps this is an admission that there is a problem with our elections to start with?
Well, thank you. I don't know whether the president had any shortcomings in our electoral process in mind when he made those made that statement. But we all know that there are challenges in the process, there are challenges in the system, and we've been at the forefront. INEC has been at the forefront of calling for reform of the processes, change of attitude by the political class, and that each and every stakeholder should play their own part in ensuring the credibility of the process and ensuring that the will of the people prevail. Democracy is predicated on the sovereignty of the people, their will, their taking charge of their destiny through their chosen representatives. And if the process is flawed, then there is a problem. So we are at the forefront of that. The Commission insists that the people's will should be the primary determinant of those who govern the country. And we're committed. And it was a restatement of our commitment to delivering credible elections. But we cannot do so alone. There are interdependencies. We have to depend on the security forces. We have to depend on other stakeholders. And we have to depend on the cooperation of the executive as well and the legislative arm of government in determining this. Because each and every arm of government has a role to play in whether we have credible elections or not. So it's an important meeting gathering certain key stakeholders together to ensure that following from his broadcast of his commitment, so following his words with certain concrete steps towards ensuring that we have credibility in our elections.
Cynthia Mbamalu, do you share a different view from that of Mr. Uzi? What are your thoughts looking at the president's reaffirmation?
Well, I think what is important is the fact that elections, it's not only the responsibility or the achieving credible elections is not the responsibility of INEC alone, but that you need that interconnection and interdependence of different agencies like the security agencies to ensure that the elections are credible. But I think what is important is the fact that there is an acknowledgement that there's been flaws and that there is a need to work to reform the process for credible elections. We're barely 1,130 to 33 days to the next general elections come 2023. And this is an opportunity to actually go back to the electoral amendment and bills. We already have proposals in the National Assembly to reform or amend sections of of the Electoral Act for credible elections. This year alone, beyond the rerun elections in January, we would have off-cycle elections in Edo and Ondo, and would have some in Anambra next year and the year after that. So it's important we go back to that. Now, it's important that the president is acknowledging that he has a role to play to deliver credible elections. And this is a time for the president to actually show that commitment in action by ensuring that the electoral amendments bills receives presidential assent and that we have the laws being implemented at least before the next general elections. There are critical issues that we need to look out for when it comes to promoting electoral integrity in Nigeria. We will look at issues of elections management, and under that, you look at independence of INEC. You also look at the conversations around deploying technology to promote elections, especially when it comes to the accreditation process, to the result collation process, and also even promoting open election data. And then you look at issues of candidate nomination, which we saw the dangers that could portend to the electoral process. When it comes to nomination, with regards to the fees for nomination, with regards to the conduct of primaries within the parties, and also the roles the political parties would play among the elections, and then the issue of electoral justice, when you look at the role the courts are are already playing in the process, how decisions of the court can impact on the process, and then also timelines for decisions or decisions of pre-elections matters. So these are critical issues that we need to address before the next elections.
Indeed, it appears there are so many issues which I also outlined: the violence, the card readers functioning, the voter apathy, political parties, even funding, also another issue, mode of transmission of results, and also curbing vote buying. But looking at some of the proposals of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, like accommodating new technology in accreditation of voters, there's the reduction in the nomination fees charged by political parties. You also mentioned empowering INEC. There's also publishing a voters' register for public scrutiny at every registration area and its website 7 days before a general election and others. To you, Mr. Sazeuzi, we know also that a month ago, I believe INEC approached the National Assembly on transmission of results, electronic voting, and possible continued use of card reader. What's the latest on that proposition?
Well, we do have the Electoral Amendment Bill of 2019 seeking to amend the 2010 Electoral Act, further amend the Act. The Commission has commenced the process of studying this bill and bringing up its own proposals as to how far the amendments have gone and other issues that have not been tackled in that amendment. We are having several sessions within the Commission so that a common ground will be had, and then engaging the National Assembly. The engagement with the National Assembly has already started, but that will be intensified in the coming weeks so that hopefully we'll get a good legal framework for the Commission. But of course, there are also other issues that need constitutional amendment, but that will come later from the words we're having from the National Assembly. But for now, are those things in the Electoral Act. And we must remember that several of these things are actually being practiced by INEC. But to strengthen the process, some people believe that these things need to be codified so that it becomes part of the law, so that the dichotomy and the controversies, for example, over the status of a card reader will be put to bed once and for all. So yes, some of these proposals on the are very good, but we think that the Act, for example, the proposed bill amending the Act, has not taken into consideration some of the experiences of 2019. So when people call for that the president should sign the bill, no, I think it's gone beyond that. I think it's a new bill. So the new bill has to be put through the crucible. It has to go through the process. And then inputs have to be taken, not just from INEC, but from other stakeholders, in the light of the 2019 experiences and also in the light of the off-cycle election experiences.
All right, Mr. Sazeuzi, I must quickly, I do beg your pardon, I must quickly ask Cynthia now, because we're running out of time. And Cynthia, in 30 seconds, if you can, are we above the risk of violence in our elections?
No, we are not, but there are prospects, so there are things we can actually do to curb violence. One, we need the commitment of political actors, especially the political parties and their leaders, to commit to actually trusting the system, trusting the system to work for them and for the people. But we also need the security agencies to be up to duty when it comes to prosecution of offenders already identified from previous elections. We cannot forget Kogi, and we must not let Kogi go down without go to rest without identifying those who were culprits and ensuring that they are called to book. But we also need the security agencies to ensure that there is proper coordination within the agencies and working with the Electoral Commission, especially.
We'd like to appreciate your time. We'd like to thank you. I wish we had more time. We'll definitely invite you to talk on this issue. We hear there are elections this month. Thank you so much, Oluwole Sazeuzi and Cynthia Bamalu. Many thanks for joining us at this time. Still to come.